Hello everyone, it's Duckfaden07. Today I'm playing my Sultai CRABVINE list, updated post MH3. Okay, so we got Psychic Frog, which is great upgrade for the archetype, but we also got the deep analysis. Okay, so this card has been amazing in the archetype too. Psychic Frog, really excellent, the only discard outlet in the deck that lets you dump your entire hand, sometimes like Vengevine's, Amalgams, Bloodghast, and then use them later. Also, it works great with deep analysis. You discard this to Frog, then get a counter, then draw 2 for 2 mana from the yard, draw 2 more cards, and then you can discard them. Sometimes this can be very helpful trying to find lethal, and helps you get cards for the Psychic Frog. Okay, so here we are, just a 3-3 split between Amalgam and Bloodghast as the Amalgam enablers. Bloodghasts work a bit better with the Psychic Frog, but Narcomebas are also pretty sweet, enabling Amalgam instant speed, not depending on your lands, and that has been really great. So I really like the 3-3 split here. A lot of one-offs, as much as I can play them. There are our big enablers here. Okay, so Creeping Chills, Vengevines, all One of Wonder, all of the usual Sultai CRABVINE staples. But we got a bunch of new cards on the sideboard. We got 3 Black Flare and 4 Blue Flare. The Blue Flare has been the best card from the sideboard, and really the most relevant card, the most relevant addition to the archetype. I almost kind of initially played it in the main, but realized that in the game 1 I mostly just want to be as aggressive as possible, and deep analysis help me get that aggression, help the card flow, get the additional creatures in hand you need to continue the pressuring. And thanks to the deep analysis, I got rid of the one-off Gravecrawler I had in the main as a Vengevine enabler from the yard. But since we have deep analysis and drawing from the Psychic Frog too, getting two creatures to trigger the Vengevine has been relatively easy, and that is why I decided to get rid of the Gravecrawler. But I still believe it is like a playable one-off in the main board, of course. List is pretty tight. There is not much you can cut, but for example you could cut 4th Gaze, you could cut 3rd Deep Analysis, something like that in my opinion. But I think with Deep Analysis the Gravecrawlers weren't really necessary. Okay, so in the sideboard I got Pick Your Poison or Haywire Might as my I would say preferred artifact enchantment hate. Haywire Might may be better in the Vengevine list because it can also help you trigger the Vengevine, but this time I decided to go with Pick Your Poison, but definitely Haywire Might, strong consideration for the sideboard slots. Okay, so these are the remaining mainboard slots I was considering, especially one of Cephalid Coliseum instead of a 4th Misty Rainforest. Kind of blue mana can sometimes be awkward with Bloodghast, but definitely Coliseum can be useful often. So definitely something to consider, but as I said, mana base is also pretty tight. You want to have as many fetches as possible, and that is why I decided against Coliseum. Okay, so we got Life from the Loam. One of Life from the Loam was my biggest consideration for the main board. I still didn't include. Life from the Loam can work decently with a Psychic Frog. It's even better if you have that one of Cephalid Coliseum in the deck. But yeah, getting the fetches can be really relevant with the crab, and it works decently with the frog. But I still preferred just having 3 analysis here and 4 gazes. So in the end I decided not to include this card, but it is definitely something I've been thinking about, and in the future, while I do some additional testing, I will definitely consider this card. Okay, so 4 Flare of Denials and 3 Force of Negation. I think these cards are super relevant from the sideboard right now. This is my most common sideboarding. In the most matchups I have just basically done this, the forces, all the forces, all 7 of them, 4 flares, 3 forces go in, especially against control decks where you don't need the creeping chills, and you can just trim on like one gaze or one secret keeper, one amalgam and stuff like that to fit in these cards, and they have been like super relevant and super strong, and especially they work well with deep analysis. And since this card is helping you to dig deeper, and you just drawing cards, then milling, getting accidental Necromebas, amalgams in the field, providing a free fuel for the Flare of Denial. It's just amazing how well has this all worked so far. I really think these 7 cards from the sideboard are a game changer in today's meta. So that's it. Let's go now see the gameplay. Before that, I just want to remind you that you can go down to the cardelc.com if you want to support my channel and need a token solution for your paper collection. Use the link down below in the video description. If you use my link to make a purchase there, you're supporting my channel, and you can check out their product if you're interested in it. Okay, so that's it. Now we can go to the gameplay and see how the deck performed. I'm really happy with how this deck felt. Okay, so game 1, there were some interesting games. Boros Energy is a really popular deck right now. Okay, so I decided to keep a crab on top. It's another 1 mana creature that can help me trigger Vengevine if I mill it over. Okay, so I keep a crab on top, but I decide to just play the Psychic Frog this turn and then go for double crab on turn 3. This can potentially... I already have Vengevine in the yard, which I will definitely trigger with my crabs, but I will also mill an amazing number of cards, and by playing Psychic Frog on turn 2 here, I have a great blocker here for Ragavan, for M-Traptor. Frog is already 3-4. It is drawing me a card next turn too. Okay, so I go here for the crab number 1, go for crab number 2, trigger Vengevine, trigger Amalgam, play the fetch, and now mill 6, then crack a fetch, mill 6 more. I milled a couple of Bloodghasts, and now I'm fetching, going for that Surveil. I can shock in, but for a gaze I don't think that's necessary. I also get the Narcomoeba and 2 of my Bloodghasts, and Surveil another Creeping Chill to the yard, gaining 3 more life and hitting my opponent for 3. And my opponent is down on 13. I can just attack with Psychic Frog for 3 more, draw another card, and that is too much for the opponent, and they concede on my turn 3. Like, that was an amazing turn 3. Also, don't forget that 2 Amalgams are coming this turn, and I also have another Vengevine and double gaze in my graveyard. So yeah, a lot has happened this turn. Okay, so let's check out game 2. Okay, so this hand is not as good as the last one, but I have gaze to find land I need here. So I can then play Frog On turn 2, potentially discard Vengevine, discard Bloodghast, discard Deep Analysis, and then turn 3, play Analysis. Try to find more lands if needed. But yeah, unfortunately here I had a good gaze on turn 1, but I wasn't able to find that black land I was looking for. I find it now on top. It is a tap land though, so I still won't be able to play the frog, which which is definitely very relevant here. Okay, so I leave Hadron Crab on top, and this means next turn I can play the frog, discard Vengevine, and then play Crab, trigger both Vengevines. This is really good. Okay, so yeah, I'm down on 9, and I have double Vengevine now, but my opponent is also in a pretty good position here. They have Ajani. Ajani is making Cat Warrior tokens, doing a lot of damage to me. Okay, so I go in for the Ajani, opponent blocks, and I go in for 2. This means they can still use Ajani again. Okay, they go for the face again, put me down on 5. Okay, so I block, I discard everything I can to the frog to block the Guide of Souls. Discard my entire hand. My frog is now a 5/6. Opponent makes a Cat Warrior 4/3, so this means I can only block 1 creature. I go for the Guide of Souls block, survive on 1 life, but opponent has Lightning Bolt to finish me off. Next turn I would be completely stabilized, kill the Ajani, deal damage with the frog, stay back with my bunch of my blockers, and yeah, it would be a great position, but opponent was able to finish it up. So let's check out game 3. And also let's check out the sideboarding plan for the Boros Energy, very popular deck right now. As you can see, so I boarded out 1 Secret Keeper, 1 Analysis, 1 Amalgam, just some one-off cards to fit in the Flares. Flares are such a good card against so many decks. Okay, so I go for the Crab, go for the Supplier, mill bunch of cards. I have Wander in the Yard, I have Otherworldly Gaze. So now I go for the Venture Deeper here, mill 4 more. And now I have 1 Vengevine in the yard, which means next turn I can go for the Crab, dig, play a fetch, dig more, fill my yard, play the Secret Keeper, bring back a Vengevine, start attacking. And my creatures have flying, and that is super relevant. Okay, so I keep another Crab on top. So I go for the Crab here, mill, as I said, mill a lot more cards. Here is that, Vengevine, but I miscounted my deck, and I actually didn't have any more untapped lands, so it was a huge misplay here. I almost costed me the game directly here. But my opponent was not able to find a Graveyard Hate piece. I think they only play a couple of hearses in the sideboard, most of these lists. And yeah, so unfortunately I mill 3 more with the Supplier here. I go for the Creeping Chill, and now I go for the Crab again. Mill more, go for the Surveil, and yeah, you can see here I'm milling 7 more cards. And now this time I have mana to cast my Secret Keeper to trigger the Vengevines. Okay, so I now cast the Secret Keeper, get 3 Vengevines, and this is still too strong for my opponent, even though last turn I just completely failed with the tap land. I didn't have the untapped land. I didn't count the lands in my yard, so yeah, it is very relevant. Okay, opponent was able to kill one of my Vengevines, exiled another Vengevine, and now I have a deep analysis from the board. I have another one there, and you can just, it is just the card advantage you're getting there is amazing. And you must consider now that I have to be very careful. I milled my entire deck, and then now I only have 3 cards left in my library, so I have 3 turns to win this, and I can't mill myself anymore. I can just play with the cards I have in my hand, and that's it. So if I mill myself, I just die. There's no point even in casting the gaze, as I really need all turns available here to be able to get this win. But I have my Wonder in the yard, all my creatures have flying, and next turn I can trigger the Vengevine. Okay, so I block, I don't need that crab. Anyway, so this block was really good for me. And I have a Creeping Chill in my hand, which I can hard cast next turn. So I can go now for the attacks. I leave enough blockers back and go in for as much damage as I can. My opponent gets 3 blocks here on the Amalgam and Bloodghast. That doesn't really matter. I can just play the land next turn to trigger the Bloodghast if needed, and now my Amalgam is already triggered, and this Amalgam triggers another one from the yard, which comes back on the end of their turn. So there is a lot of attackers here. My opponent goes with Flage, kills my Vengevine, and gains some life, but that is not nearly enough. They have 3 flyers in the... They have 3 flyers in defense, but I can hardcast this Vengevine, I can hardcast the Creeping Chill, and that is enough for a lethal here. And I win with only 1 card left in my library. That is like really amazing. Okay, so that was a really fun match 1. Let's check out match 2. Okay, so this is a 1-lander, but I'm playing second, and that was my hand was otherwise very good, and I basically just need a 1 land, any land here, to have a pretty brutal hand. So I decide to risk it, and it pays off. I mill Vengevine with Crab, so I decided just to hardcast the Secret Keeper, trigger the Vengevine immediately, and start attacking for 4. Unfortunately, my opponent plays a Johnny, so I can't really continue doing that. But yeah, again, playing against Boros Energy, that deck is really powerful right now. They exile a Discharge here, they don't have mana to play it, and yeah. Okay, so the deep analysis is so good with the frog. I was able here to discard a bunch of cards. I discard Amalgam, discard Bloodghast, discard Wonder, play a land now triggering the Bloodghast. Bloodghast triggers the Amalgam, and all my creatures have flying. Also I triggered the Amoeba and the Creeping Chill. This is crazy. Okay, so now yeah, basically my opponent concedes after seeing all that has happened here, and I can even grow my Psychic Frog even bigger, discarding Chill and Vengevine, and my opponent just concedes. That is game 1. Let's check out game 2. Okay, so the good thing about this Boros Energy decks, they're mostly playing just 2 unlicensed Hers in the sideboard. And as you can see here in match 1, this is the same matchup. I boarded in 4 Flare of Denials, but after some thinking, I decided that my sideboarding plan for this matchup is just to board 3 Flare of Denials. And to be honest, the way I was using this Flare of Denial the most is just countering the Flage escape cost. They usually have enough cards in the yard to trigger the flage, like to play the flage one time. In a longer game, maybe twice, and that is the main thing I have to counter here. And I don't have any graveyard hate in my sideboard. I believe it's seven counter spells in the side. I'm good against that type of decks which are trying to which are just trying to win on their graveyard, stuff like Gorios. Okay, here you can see that I discarded my entire hand on a Psychic Frog. I really don't mind doing this in this deck. I'm making my Frog just a 6-7 here. Is amazing. Frog is drawing a card every time it attacks, helping me discard stuff from my hand too. Okay, so opponent here actually plays my Secret Keeper. Now I give flying to the frog, I get the Creeping Chill ability and discard the Amalgam, draw a card, getting a land triggers Bloodghast triggers Amalgams, and I also play Gaze in response to that, so I find another Amalgam and these two Amalgams trigger the third one. So my opponent is now on 5. I have lethal for the next turn and they concede very quick games against Boros Energy, and that's it. So just three flares as my only sideboard choice for this matchup. So that was match 1. Let's check out match 2. Sorry, that was match 2. Let's check out match 3. Yeah, these matches were so quick and similar, so yeah, I kind of forgot it. We already 2 matches in. Okay, so here we are. Turn 1, either Gaze. I will play Supplier here. I draw Gaze, but that's why I decide to keep to go for the Gaze. I graveyard the Deep Analysis. And I have 2 more in my hand which I can discard with the frog next turn. This is really good. So 3 analysis in the graveyard, drawing you 6 cards. This is really hard to to beat. Okay, I have Crab on the top. I play the land hoping to mill over the Vengevine. I didn't get it, but I did get the Bloodghast. And also got the Wonder. So I discard all of my analysis, go in for as much damage as I can with the frog here. 4 damage, but my opponent has a Solitude to deal with it. That is fine. They play a ring here, so I have to try to be as aggressive as possible. Unfortunately, Creeping Chill doesn't work well with the ring. I still gain life though, but I find the land here. Be able to mill 6 is great. Unfortunately, finding another chill which doesn't do anything here, just gains me life. Okay, but okay, here again in the upkeep I go for the a Gaze. I trigger the Amoeba, trigger the Amalgam. I find the Crab on top and now play the second Deep Analysis. Opponent counters this one and I go for another fetch and just surveil again. You have to be careful that you first do the Hedron Crab ability and then surveil after that. This way you get to look at the top card of your library. It's usually much better to do it like this. Okay, so I continue attacking and actually trigger 4 Amalgams here. I still have Deep Analysis in the yard, I still have a Gaze, and yeah. Okay, so my opponent has Wrath of the Skies to clear the entire board, but I have another Gaze to trigger the Amoeba. Amoeba then triggers all 4 of the Amalgams again, and I still have Wonder in the yard. I still have a Deep Analysis to play. In my main board I can actually just play Hedron Crab and I found fetch on top with the gaze. I left a fetch on top, so I could basically play Hedron Crab, play fetch, dig 6, and then hard cast the Vengevine to trigger even more Vengevines to maybe try to go for the lethal immediately this turn. That seems quite possible. Only 18 cards left in my library and 3 Vengevines should be there, so there is a high chance of finding at least one in the top 6. Here is Amoeba bringing back 4 Amalgams and my opponent concedes. So let's check out game 2. Okay, so first two decks were Boros Energy Aggro, and the third matchup is Jeskai Energy Control. Okay, so I really like, against these control decks, I really like bringing in all the counter spells. So I don't need the Creeping Chills against a control deck. They are sweet, I mean, always it's nice to mill over the chill, but the Creeping Chill main use is to win the aggro swings, aggro races, and the Creeping Chills does that so well. Okay, so here I resolve the frog. This is very important. I can start drawing cards here. I can start drawing cards. I let this resolve because I can still kill the Narset with the frog, and I have a Flare of Denial backup. Okay, so I play the crab, mill over some cards, play another frog and pass the turn. The sweet thing here is I'm attacking Narset, and when Narset dies, I still draw a card from the frog because Narset is no longer on the field. So I get the draw a card. I had to sack a crab, unfortunately, to save my frog from the solitude, but that's okay. I still have another frog here. Okay, in the upkeep I do the gaze, I leave another flare on top, continue attacking here, play the Narco Amoeba because I'm expecting to be forced to play a Flare of Denial next turn again. So I play the Narco Amoeba. If they don't play anything relevant, I can just hold it. And here I leave another flare on top again. Continue attacking with Psychic Frog, drawing cards, and my opponent plays Rest in Peace. I go for another flare. So many of counter spells happening here. My opponent now only has one card in hand, and they decide to leave Narset on 5. Okay, I don't have any more gazes. I have analysis, can use it right now. And my opponent was actually able to cast the Days Undoing, drawing 7 more cards. Okay, opponent takes one of my frogs. I still kill the Narset and draw a card, getting the crab, which was pretty sweet top deck, and now I can go for the fetch. Again, fill my entire yard, put Vengevine there, and also double Vengevine and the Amalgam, which is amazing. So I cast the frog. Unfortunately, this is post-combat, so otherwise this would be very close to lethal. I play the frog and find the Vengevines and bring back the Amalgam. So even turn after my opponent played Days Undoing, drawing 7 cards, removing my entire yard and the hand, they still just concede next turn. And yeah, that is the power of this deck. That was really amazing. So let's check out match 4. Okay. Okay, this is a one lander, but I have a survey land and I have otherworldly gaze. This is giving me 4 looks at the top of my library, so I think that is pretty good. I go for the gaze here and put 3 cards in the yard. 2 of those are Amoeba and Amalgam, and The Bloodghast, unfortunately, I still didn't find a land after 5 looks, but I find another gaze and still no land, and here finally, after 8 cards, I find it from the top. Play a second land, trigger 2 Bloodghasts, and play the Stitcher Supplier. It's just incredibly hard to win this matchup without hard graveyard hate. Most of these decks are playing only 2 or 3 pieces in the sideboard, and yeah, like 2 unlicensed Hearse, even if you find it, is not enough to stop this deck. Okay, I go for a Frog here. Frog is like a great card. Maybe I kind of expected the counter spell, so maybe it was better to just pass this turn and hold the gaze to play on their turn. Okay, here I graveyard the Amoeba, graveyard the Vengevine, find a land. I wanted to find more lands, so I keep a land on top. Okay, I play the land post-combat, and if they kill one of my Bloodghasts, and now I trigger the Amalgam from the yard, and that is a lot of damage for the next turn. I'll also have another Bloodghast in my hand, which has haste. Okay, opponent plays a Flage here with dress down in the field, which means they are... Yeah, which means they are that Jeskai dress down deck that plays a Flage, the 7 mana Null Drifter, is it called? Yeah. Okay, so here I play the Bloodghast and the Stitcher Supplier, triggering the Vengevine from the yard, and that is lethal damage even if my opponent blocks. So that is the game. Let's check out. It is another Jeskai deck, completely different from the previous Boros deck and the Jeskai control. The previous match was a Jeskai control. It is like a full control deck, playing counter spells, mass removals, and the One Ring and the Flage as basically their only creature. And this deck is really different. It plays Dress Down and Consign to Memories, it's called like that. And they're trying to stifle the ability from the Flage, from the Null Drifter, stuff like that, to resolve them early and start exploiting their attack ability. Okay, so here I start with the Stitcher Supplier, mill 3 cards, I get the Deep Analysis in the yard. I can now play Narcomoeba from my hand. Narcomoeba is nothing special here, but when I have Flare of Denial, this card becomes a lot more relevant. So sometimes just casting this card will be good. Okay, so here I can continue attacking, pressuring my opponent with my small creatures, hard casting the Amalgam. Hard casting the Amalgam is actually pretty good here. I'm able to just continue pressuring my opponent while holding the interaction. They try to exile Amalgam, I decide to sack the Amoeba to go in for more damage on the next turn. I can hold a Flare of Denial for this turn, but I decide to rather go for Deep Analysis from the graveyard, and yeah. Okay, so now I go for a second Greenland. Also, I forgot to say, in the mana base I'm playing 2 Undercity Rivers, but one of the survey lands could be Hedge Maze to have like better access to hard casting the Vengevine. Okay, so here I play the survey land and pass the turn and go for the gaze immediately. Keep a second Psychic Frog on the top. My opponent at this point only has 1 card in their hand, and I have 1 frog in the field, second on the top, backed up with Flare of Denial. Okay, my opponent goes for a Flage here, kills my frog. That is unfortunate. That is probably the best play they could have here, but I know I have another frog on top, and now I'm just holding the hard cast of a Flare of Denial. And yeah, so I counter the Flage. They can cast the Flage next turn again, but that is fine. Here I discard the Analysis. Analysis is such a sweet card, especially with the Flage. Discard, get a counter, draw 2, then you can discard more to get more counters. Very often this way I find lethal, and my opponent tries to Solitude. I have another Flare of Denial, and that is game over. Yeah, you could see just 4 Flare of Denials in the yard, and also Force of Negation. Here you can see just how good is this Flare of Denial in this deck. It's absolutely brutal, especially against these type of decks. And they have been good in stopping the Flage. Some graveyard hate could be decent on the sideboard, but yeah, Flares and the Forces have been doing amazing job, and I really need more slots. Like, you really need a Flare of Malice to be able to kill the Doughty or some other removal, whatever. Like, 2 best ones. There is a Flare of Malice, and the second one is Pylon. Both of these removals are pretty good in this deck. Been playing the Flare of Malice, and I'm very happy with it, but a really cool thing is when you have a supplier, you can sack the supplier. But maybe the 1 Pylon and 2 Flare of Malice would be kind of better split, or even a 2-2 if you. But yeah, Doughty, the black scam, mono black scam is a pretty bad matchup because they have 4 Doughties in the main, but it's not just that, they also have additional graveyard hate from the side. So this puts you in a situation where you have to have both Pick Your Poison and a Flare of Malice to be able to win the game. And if they play the second Doughty Voidwalker in addition to their, then in those cases, like, they will get easy win over you, and it is one of the hardest matchups for the deck. But that is okay. All decks have their hard matchups, but the amazing thing is the deck is doing so great against these popular energy decks at the moment, and even without the Flage hate, you could, like Damping Spheres, I don't really like playing them on the sideboard, but they have been really necessary as additional hate to these 7 cards. It's just Ruby Storm is very popular. Damping Sphere is one of the easiest ways to beat it, but also it's not just that. Damping Sphere is good against a Titan, it's good against Tron, it's good against Eldrazi, so as is a Flare of Malice, a great card to beat these Eldrazi decks. And I played a fair bit against those two. And that's it. Okay, so I talked about other possible inclusions in the beginning. And yeah, so for the end, friendly reminder to click like, click subscribe, comment in the channel. I want to hear your thoughts about these 4 cards I was talking about in the beginning. What do you think about including these cards, and what would you remove to put these cards in the main? If you're commenting about that, don't forget to write what would you remove for them. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and that's it. Goodbye.